Hi, Marty.
Hi, Kate. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm goofy.
I know, you're goofy.
I'm goofy,
Uh,
listener. I'm goofy. so,
uh, Listener, welcome to Romance Writers Therapy, the podcast where we talk about writing and all our big feelings about it.
yeah,
This is our big feelings episode.
we're going to be all about our feelings today. Yeah. So if you are currently struggling with something and you just kind of want to hear other people's problems, we're here for you today. So, yep.
All
So what's going
right.
on, Kate?
So,
What's happening? What are you up to?
you want me to? Because I know you had your thing, and
Yeah, but we always start with me asking you, like, how is your life? So.
Oh, my life's doing all right. You know, we're experiencing a heat wave here.
Oh,
and,
God.
Yeah. My God, it's so my house. The AC works downstairs, but it does not really work upstairs at all. And I feel like I've told Austin this like a million times because this is all I complain about right now. So my work from home office is our little second bedroom, and it's upstairs, obviously. And it gets so hot up here during the day, and my computers get so hot that like they just turn off, and then or like the keys are hot to touch, and like
That's
to the point
terrible.
where it kind of hurts to like hold down on any key for too long. And
I'm just my
like,
gosh.
I have like a little fan underneath my personal laptop to like that's keeping it going. I have a fan kind of plugged in the hallway that's trying to circulate air up here. It's pretty bad. I'm really close to like just going rogue and buying like one of those in-window air conditioners, and like I told Austin about it, but he was like, no, we would have to run like electricity to like make sure the power is like 270 watts, or like I don't know.
That's not true.
Well,
I mean,
true.
maybe
go
it's
fight
true.
him now.
Okay, if you're getting like a giant like 220 window air conditioner, then yes, that is 100% true, right? But if you're just getting like a smaller like air conditioner to essentially heat or cool one room, it should work just fine in your electricity. Now, gathered, I don't know your electricity. I probably shouldn't just like talk out of pocket like this, but like we don't have central air because we have a boiler heat, right?
Okay.
So we don't have like air vents for forced air. Listener, this is what you came to the show for. So
yes. Time to learn something about
heating and cooling
systems.
Yes. So we have always used window shakers, right? And so yeah, usually we'll have like two running, and we've never done special. Andrew always jokes that we have central air, but we just have like a house centralized around air, right?
Okay.
Because we have multiple like air conditioners in. Right now we only have the one upstairs, and we've always just plugged it right in, you know, using a surge protector. So like there's a breaker built into the surge protector is like a great plan, but like even that's not always something that we've done. But we did just get a 220 air conditioner, and Andrew is wiring that in. But yeah, so like we have one little air conditioner upstairs. It's a decent size, honestly. And that little guy is just doing its best. It's trying its hardest to cool the full upstairs and downstairs. But like it's too much to expect from this little thing. It's not meant to put out that kind of cold air. So the other air conditioner will be great when it's done being wired in, but man, Andrew has plenty of stuff going on right now that it hasn't happened. It's partially done. You don't have to, you shouldn't have to wire it in. Like if it's not like a giant piece of equipment and you're just expecting it to like cool like 500 square feet, like I would think you'd probably be fine. And like you're probably expecting it to cool like 250 square feet. Like I can't imagine that room is that big.
I have no point of reference for like what square footage is like how to do square footage.
Well, I mean,
this room's like 8 feet tall, maybe 10 by 10. I don't know what that looks like, or how to do.
Well, you don't do it. It's square, not cube.
God.
So like you started talking about the height, and I'm like, oh my God, I've never factored that in. Oh my God, I'm a realtor. Like, and I was like, nope, you're still right.
Do you not have to like be like the ceiling's 8 foot versus 10 foot or whatever?
No, I
feel like
no. You would have like a difference, but most they just kind of do this. They do the square footage, not like the cube footage, right? So like, if like the room I'm in right now is probably 10 by 8, maybe 11 by, I don't know. I'm terrible at guessing visually. So it'd be like just 11 by 8, right?
Okay.
So that's 88 square feet. Is that right? That's not right. Is that right? That's math. Because it's just 11 times 8. Yeah. Anyway, listener, thank you for being here. I think we're done. Six minutes in, I think we've given you what you're looking for.
Tip for the week. Now that we've learned how to do math.
Oh man, but no, you shouldn't need anything gigantic. It should be able to plug in just fine.
No, for real. Yeah.
I mean, think about how many people. Think about how many people in like New York City just have window shakers in, right? In the apartment that they rent, right? In an entire building. The building is coded to make sure that it can handle these electrical strains, right?
Yeah. I'm sure because there's so many like old ass buildings in New York, so I'm like, I don't know how often they would like replace the wiring. I feel like it would be a problem in some places.
It probably only happens when it changes hands from one owner to another, if that.
True.
I mean, that's my guess, but like,
but so like the heat, I feel like it really exhausts you, and there's something like you don't think of it as like mentally taxing, but I think there really truly is something just mentally draining about existing in the heat for too long. I agree. Absolutely. But like yesterday, my kids, like as soon as we stepped outside, one of them asked me a question and I was instantly pissed off. Right. And I was like, I'm sorry. It's hot. Mama's going to try her best not to be grumpy today, but we're going to like just be aware that mom is too hot and that makes mom grumpy. And so like all day I'm like, nope, still too hot. Can't answer questions. Like all day, just couldn't do it. And like, so we put a pool up in the backyard and that was a total godsend last night. Cause like we had an entire day of like running around, chasing our tail in the heat. It was rough. There was even like, most of it was spent outside of air conditioning, right? Like for real, I don't love going to the beach. Like, I pretty much hate going to the beach because I'm so fucking Irish on my dad's side that if I'm outside for 30 minutes, I do get sunburns. 30 minutes. That's all it takes.
That's very fucking Irish.
Right? Like, if I lift up my shirt, you can, like, see, like, light reflect off of me, in fact. It's bad. It's so bad.
Look, so we put reflectors at the end of driveways around here, like in the country, because otherwise at night, like you can't see where the driveway starts or ends, right?
Yeah.
And so I have this image of you just like standing at the bottom of driveways, like, it's right here.
It's my job now.
This is what I do. Oh. They could have just put a reflector in, but they've got Kate.
$10 an hour to stand here. Oh my god.
Oh, it's so funny.
But like, yeah, like the idea of going to the beach is like really attractive now because I'm like, just to like be in the water, just be in the water. I'm like,
not feel like I'm dying,
right?
Ugh.
And like the thing is,
that pool was a godsend. Like what truly wonderful things. Like, we had so much fun. I stopped being a grump. The whole rest of the night, I had a great attitude because, I had cooled down appropriately. It was awesome. But yes, we are also having a heat wave, and it does make me very grumpy. I agree. It is mentally taxing. It is emotionally taxing. It is physically taxing. I didn't realize, like, maybe that's another reason why I'm so tired today, is I spent all that time in the heat yesterday, and then I didn't get proper rest.
Yeah, yesterday you were like a little bit you were kind of hemming and hawing over your chapter when you brought it to the group. You were like, I don't know what's wrong with this, but like nothing was wrong with it. But then you were like, I'm not happy with it.
Well,
I
and it's
wonder
just,
how much of that was.
yeah, I wonder how much of it, yeah. I don't know. Because, like, yeah, and, like, I think that, like, also it's just a little bit different. This whole book is just, like, it just has a bit different vibe than I have been writing. But I'm also having a lot of fun with it. And I'm, like, kind of farther away from it than I normally am. And so it's just
That's such a weird experience.
It's a weird
like,
experience.
Because I feel like I haven't worked on, like, Logan's book at all, like, book 2 for my Werewolf Boys. And yet, like, a couple weeks ago, I opened up the document and it was like, you've got 40,000 words in here. I'm like, when? When did that happen? It's almost done?
That's wild,
Not really,
dude.
but, like,
yeah.
I don't know why I say it's almost done, because, like, fucking the Sean's book, the first book, is... because I got my first round of edits back from Heather, and now then I was like, all right, I'm gonna take what my beta readers gave me feedback on. I'm gonna like clean some stuff up. They didn't have like too many big like revisions, but like just some things that I needed to reinforce here and there. And I've added like 4,000 words already, and now, or more, possibly it's 80,000 almost.
Holy cannoli!
And I'm sitting here like, wasn't it 73 a minute ago?
Dude.
What happened?
What's happening? Like, it seems like maybe you're not realizing how much you're working on it, or you're working a lot faster than you had realized, right?
Yeah, this thing, I didn't plan for them to be, like, I kind of knew I wanted it to be longer than my novellas, maybe like full length, book length, which is, you know, minimum 50,000 words. So my thought was kind of like in the 60 to 70,000 range, and then it ended up at 70 when I sent it to Heather the editor.
That's hilarious. Heathitor!
No. No.
I think so.
Oh
I think we've made a thing happen.
Do we need to go tell her that this is
we
her
do.
new name?
We've given her a name. Heathitor! Okay. Sorry.
My God. Yeah, and we were talking last night. I had wrote a new scene that I was kind of like expanding on a short chapter to like lead into it better. And it was like I added a cute little moment between Sean and Elise. And even though it's a very light moment, because so many of the edits that I've been doing have been like the really heavy introspective kind of moments. And we mentioned like feeling like writing a book and putting the cart before the horse and all that. I feel like that, for me, that's how it ties in. Brain, where did you go? Took 2 left turns and fell over. I've been doing so much of the heavier edits that like, and like really all that introspection stuff they're doing. And for a moment I was like, this book isn't funny anymore. Like, just have not like written the joke parts or like worked on the jokey parts.
So
that I've like forgotten what the tone of it is.
Because you just said that last night, right? Where you're like, I feel like I forgot to make it funny, and I was like, we just laughed at it. Like, you got 2 live chuckles, like, while you were reading. Like, you had the response from the audience. Like,
I know, and it's like, what to me is like making this feel so bogged down with like emotion and like.
But it is the
angst.
fact that this is like where you're focusing your writing right now, right? Like, I think that that's very true. That like you are writing the more emotional moments, and so it's kind of like hiding or burying the funny parts because you're like, that's just where the focus is at. But like, as a reader, they'll experience the entire book, right?
Yeah, and that's the weird part.
And that's the
not
weird
being
part.
able to like experience the whole book for what it is anymore. Like, I feel like in the beginning stages of writing a book, I start with the sexy bits, the funny bits, the like putting all the tropes and the characters together, and then like by the time all of that is written and I've got like a rough kind of outline / draft, like maybe the first half of the book, And then I'm like, all right, now I need to like figure out what their motivation is. And that's always like, I always feel like maybe I should have come up with this first.
I don't know, because like I kind of come up with those things as I'm writing, right? So like I didn't realize that Lizzie and Rose were going to have an estranged relationship until I was like writing the one night stand, and like Lizzie started like talking about how she used to have this friendship, well, thinking about it, she didn't say it out loud, but how she used to have this friendship with her sister, and then now she has like an identity crisis over like who she is without that friendship, right? I could very, very much at that point just, rewrite that scene if my motivations for her changed. But instead, like a lot of times what will happen is like, okay, so now I have that context and I'll start putting together the rest of the story around that context, right? Like, okay, so what could have happened? How does that affect the rest of the story? And it starts filling in those holes for me. But it's not like I sit down and figure out what my character's like motivation or like dark past. Like I don't figure out what that is and then write the story. I need to be writing the story to understand what that is.
Yeah, I feel like, especially when you write in kind of a chronological order, I feel like that kind of naturally, like one of the things I always come back to, especially when I'm like working in a more fantasy kind of oriented genre, is like when to world build, when to like not info dump, but like subtly info dump.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's gonna be like.
Yeah, exactly.
And
well, it's not actually info dumping,
like,
because you are like, weaving it in. You're not just like spending pages telling people world building stuff. You're like weaving it into the story.
I feel like when I work on the world building ahead of time before I'm writing, then that becomes I have to info dump this here so that it makes it into the story. And like, but when I'm kind of coming up with it on the fly, it's like I'm introducing information as it's needed and as it's necessary. And so it feels very natural. And then you're also not dumping it all in one place. But like, I don't know, like how to factor that into a long-term sustainable writing practice is like, how we just don't plan ahead.
I don't know, because I can't plan ahead because I don't know anything without context. Right? So like I've tried plotting things out, but like I literally can't. Like I'll just stare at the screen and hate every minute of it because I don't know anything about the story. Maybe I know tropes or I know a location, but I don't know the characters or anything until I start writing. And then they just kind of continue to flesh out. And the more they flesh out, the more it's like, okay, so I'm going to have to, like, this storyline or this issue is being introduced, in the second half, I need to weave it in through the first half. And so I keep that in mind when I start doing my edit. But like, I just can't do anything different than this, right? Like the best way for me to remember to do anything or to remember like information is to tell me why, right? But if you don't tell me why, I don't have any memory of it. And so I've found that that's very similar to like how my writing process is like I don't have anything until I start doing it, like until I start building the story around them. And that just comes from like starting at the beginning and just writing. Like, and it's really hard to like, I feel like describe that to someone doesn't also think this way, because how do you just start writing without knowing anything? But it's just the other way around for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so I think I was telling you about like we talked about putting the cart before the horse in writing. Like the writing process feels like that's very necessary, like instead of a don't do that, it's like a no, this is what you're going to end up doing. And then you just have to go get the horse at the end.
You're just going to have to go get the horse. Yeah, it's just,
I don't know, like, because I'm trying to think of how to, because we talked about that we felt like it was a little bit different for how we do our processes.
I think that you're starting to like approach a bit more like plotting first. It seems like that's the way your brain is starting to like adapt your process.
It feels very weird because like I definitely feel tugged in both directions to like become more of a plotter and also to become more of a pantser. And
Okay.
I don't know. We'll see how that. I just gotta keep noodling on it, I think, for a while.
Yeah.
But you know what? I absolutely love that. I love having you around. I love having you as a writing friend. Just like for many reasons, for
Yeah,
like
no,
so many
Sims.
varied reasons. One of them in particular, kind of illustrated by what we were doing. We were goofing around last night,
Oh my
and
gosh, that was so fun.
we were in Canva. Marty had found a like brand identity template and was like filling in the blanks on some of those, and then I started filling in the blanks, and then we just started like adding dicks all over it and stuff.
Oh my gosh. We were laughing so hard. It was
Oh my God.
so fun.
And even though like we wrote like all this brand identity stuff that in like the goofiest, most unhinged way as possible, I think getting like someone's outside perspective on you and being able to like reflect what you're doing back to you makes it so much easier to like, because fucking brand identity shit is so hard to do. Like, what's my mission statement?
Exactly. Well, and then like I can see your efforts with an eye that you can't, right?
Yeah.
And so when we were playing around, like I could pull things from like the things that you've said or written or like posted from like a viewer's perspective.
Yeah.
And like that's a perspective you can't take. And that's one of the hardest things about creating anything. I mean, pretty much this entire conversation has been like, I see it this way and I can't see it any other way.
Yeah, no, I think that like that is every conversation. It's like, here's my perspective. Let me try to hear yours and like,
yeah,
you know, see how much of that I can reconcile with my own.
Yeah, I agree. And like I had so much fun doing that. And then I don't know, like it did, for one thing, a lot of times creating all this stuff is like not a shared experience. And so like doing like playing around on Canva last night was like it was social. And that was really like a breath of fresh air. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, for sure. Because like when you're doing like a lot of like self introspection, you're usually doing it by yourself and sitting there like, well, what am I like? What am I doing?
Also just creating these posts and being like, okay, so I want this post to make like this fake person I've created in my head like chuckle or pause, right?
Yeah.
And there's so much like maneuvering in that thought process, right?
Right.
And so,
Well, so like they always talk about like who's your ideal reader, and it's like my ideal readers maybe like Marty and a couple of other people.
That's one of the things I was going to talk to you today is like how much of your writing process is like this will make them laugh, right? Because like there's times I'm writing and I'm like this will make Rebecca laugh. And like there'll be like moments where like I know like I'm playing into that corner of my audience, and it does really help when you're like you're doing the thing and you're kind of all by yourself, but like you know like I worked that joke in and they're gonna like it, right?
There's this, so I have like a handful of thoughts now.
Okay.
So there's this TV show I really like. I know I've annoyed you with it. Like now I've got you on board with the Dropout TV. It's not just one TV show.
It's so
a
cute.
Collection of TV shows. Dropout. They were the video and such section of College Humor when College Humor was a thing, and then when College Humor died, I guess they did some business things, and now Dropout TV is its own thing. It's a streaming service. They're kind of small and like boutique. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to call it boutique.
Yeah, but I see why that word works.
Right, because it's like this is a very like all of their shows have like a very specific kind of humor, and
they're
like,
very niche,
centered around like nerdy things and improv comedy. Like it's you're like there's a whole bunch of genres that are not represented on their streaming service because that's not what they do. They just kind of keep doing what they're good at. And they're getting very good at it, and I fucking love it. And so like they have I guess an ensemble cast that like routinely comes back and like pops up through all the different shows that they do. And so you, even though there are some people who like guest, there you kind of become familiar with the core kind of cast of Dropout, and you kind of get to know how like they're all friends with each other and the ways that they like perceive each other. And that it's really funny because like in Game Changer, which is like I think Dropout's like big show, like it's the one that I think most people kind of learn about first. We're not sponsored by them. I'm just geeking out. I fucking love Dimension 20, and like I'm a huge fan of like Brennan Lee Mulligan, Erica Ishii, and like Abria Iyengar. Like they are all just such fantastic. Oh, and Lou
Zachy.
Wilson, I want to say. I don't want to get his last name wrong, but I always forget because I follow someone else on Instagram who's Lou Wilhelm, and I'm like my brain just switches them together. Anyway, not important.
I'm a big fan of Zachy.
Oh my god, Zach Oyama is like I have such a crush on him.
He's absolutely spectacular. I totally see why you'd have a crush on him. One of my absolute favorite moments in like all of the internet history is, for one thing, when he was doing that spot on Game Changer where he's pretending to be like an arborist who forgot to bring his axe. And so he's like hugging the tree.
He's like trying to hug the tree to death or like pull it out of the ground.
But like,
he does such
like
so
the
good.
moment of like, oh yeah, let me just get this stuff out of my bag, and then like the it's very subtle oh shit face. So funny. The subtlety in that moment is perfect. Another absolute favorite moment of his for me is are you Sheila's dog? I could not handle that one. Oh my god, I die.
He's on a different show from Dropout. It was called Very Important People, where they like put a bunch of like special effects makeup on someone, and then they have to come up with a character, and then they get interviewed. And he was like being this like power body lift, like bodybuilder, like really intensely, kind of looks a little mutated, honestly.
Okay,
like, the makeup was so. But then like. There's this part where he pours a bunch of like protein powder on Vic Michaelis, the host, interviewer, their face, and then goes, "Do you feel better? Isn't that better?" So it's become like Austin and me just say this to each other. Don't you feel better now? Isn't that better?
Man, that's so funny.
Oh my god. Highly recommend all of it. Okay. But like, so the thing that the main draw of, in like a weird, a little bit parasocial kind of way, is like seeing the way that they all kind of like identity is formed from interacting with other people. And like we may have talked at some point about how like you feel like different people when you're with different people. I think that happens a lot when you're growing up and you're kind of figuring out more of a sense of identity. But like I do feel like that kind of solidifies over time. And it's so hard to observe identity in a vacuum. And yeah, that's kind of the whole thought, I think, maybe.
Okay.
Forgotten all the other ones.
Was this because of, like, what we were saying with doing the Canva stuff, like, together and it being social, and, like, how we can't see ourselves from our own perspective? We
talk so much and we hear so much advice about, like, figure out who's your core demographic. And it's like, what does that mean? Like I know it means fine, like women ages 45 to 50 and they all like were astronauts, and like you have to like really whittle down to like these kind of impersonal really details about a person.
So I got a marketing like blueprint starter kit from Jen DePaula, and she's somebody I've followed on TikTok, and she has a couple, like she has a podcast, she gives really great advice. And so I bought this little PDF workshop, and one of the major parts of it is actually going through and like being minutely detailed about who your ideal reader is, right? Like what's your ideal reader's top 10 favorite authors? What are their top 3 favorite shows? And so like you're getting them, like you're literally naming them. And so that process really helped me. And the fact that like, it wasn't an expensive course. It was a pretty inexpensive course. But like, the fact that like I bought it and then like I have the paperwork in front of me, I'm like, okay, I am invested in this. Do the actual like workshop. Don't just like, I don't know, she's like 35, she's like a mom, and like, you know what I mean? Like actually do it, right? And that honestly has helped me a lot. Actually writing down that information has made me so much more confident about like what social media posts I'm doing and how they should look, like how snarky they should be. It's like the way we were talking about how we write to our critique group. and we'll like put moments in that we
Yes.
think that they think are funny and like stuff like that. It's doing that for this imaginary person, right? Where I'm like,
Yeah.
Imogene will think this is fucking hilarious. Imogene will definitely chuckle when she sees this, right? Like, I don't know why I named her Imogene. I just, honestly, she's probably more of a Julie, but moving on, right?
The vibes gotta match.
That's has been quite a confidence builder. Because, like, when I'm making this thing, I literally have a picture in my head of who this person is, what they like, stuff like that. And so I'm not like, oh God, what if I put this out there and no one thinks it's funny? Right? I'm like, oh, but Imogene will. Right? Like, she's a totally fake person, but she does think I'm funny. Right? And so it helps. It does help me feel more confident about posting and creating things instead of like getting into like the anxiety spiral of like, but is this curated? Does this like match my grid and like stuff like that? Like, I don't care. That's not who I am. And she doesn't care either. Right? Like, she does not care how curated I am.
Whenever I see something, or whenever I come up with something I want to post or send to the group chat, like, I think about like, because this is like the social aspect of social media. It's like, is this something I would post to my group chat? Is this something I can also just post it on my social? Because like, things that like make me laugh, or I think are gonna make people who are my friends laugh, or like that kind of thing. God, this is I'm really butchering this thought. Oh my God.
I feel like I understand what you're saying. Is like, instead of like sending it directly to a friend, you're like, you know what, that is funny to more, like, that's funny to my audience, not just my friend.
A lot of my day is like, if I'm at my desk, I'm alone for 8 hours, whether I'm at work or, you know, just kind of sitting in my cubicle avoiding people, or if I'm literally at home alone, just me and my cat. It's like the little impulse to like, hey, let me be social for a second. Hey, let me talk to somebody. Hey, let me express this thought to someone. And then like for a while, I've noticed like just my personal, the way I kind of swing back and forth is sometimes I will post too much and I'll be like, actually, I could just be like sending this to friends. And like, that's who would actually receive this thought better. You know, people who actually definitely know me versus like, oh, this is just kind of a broad thought that would make a bunch of like, maybe is a little more palatable. You know, I'm not just sending dick jokes into the ether 24/7. Used to.
I mean, sometimes you do. Sometimes
I do. It was a lot more at the beginning of the pandemic. There's a channel in our Discord for our writing group that's just called Kate's Cursed Memes, because I sent so many of them in the general chat that Ashley was just like, you're gonna be
need a corner,
this channel. Put all your memes here, stop putting them in the main chat.
I love how many of our like channels are like born from like, okay, general chat is not this, right? Like, yeah, we need a spot for this. There's like a
fitness responsibility.
There's event and
chat.
support.
There's an intellectualism 2020.
Yeah. Yes.
And
there's event and support where like we can like observe things that are bothering us.
Huge.
It's huge. Like, because like sometimes you're having this conversation in general chat that's like completely like light or like silly or nothing, and then all of a sudden you have something like meaningful to talk about, and it's like, I don't want to bomb the general chat with this.
Yeah, especially like if like the things that we're venting about sometimes contain like triggering topics, and it's like, I don't want to ruin everyone's day, but I'll like put a little like cover on this and you can lift it up if you want to see it.
Exactly. And so like the vet and support channel has been really helpful.
Oh, absolutely.
We had a lot we needed to talk about, that's for sure.
Although sometimes it does happen where like we're in the vent and support, someone's venting and then we're supporting, and then like I'll forget that this isn't the general chat and I will just like start shit posting.
Yes.
And it's like, hang on, let me copy and paste this and move it.
It's not a perfect system.
No, it's very much a play it by ear. But like it is nice.
It is. Kate, where are we going with this right now?
We've had a lot of conversation about like brand identity, social media, and like perceiving the self, like things that make it easier, I think, and like finding your audience, and kind of like I feel like we've really marinated on what finding your audience, kind of the work that goes into it.
So my current challenge, and I was
Mm.
talking to you about this before we started recording,
We did.
is like,
I was wondering like 20 minutes ago. When do I ask her about that?
um, my current challenge is that I'm posting, I've created my audience, like my ideal reader. I'm not like getting super impressive responses from my like posts and stuff, but like they're being interacted with and like stuff like that. But I'm struggling, and I was telling you this also beforehand. I
Mm.
revamped my subscription, my newsletter subscription like automation, and it does a better job of like talking more about like why I started writing where I'm writing, and like the other books to like grab and like stuff like that, and directing them in that direction. And it
Mm.
also has a couple extra like short stories at the bottom. And I'm seeing people like downloading those short stories, and I'm seeing people like interact with that extra automation, but I'm not seeing people purchase. And so that's something I'm really struggling with, is like I haven't figured out how to write a hook, is what I think is like the fucking challenge right now. And so I'm like having fun posting, and that's been great, but also it's really hard for me to decide to continue posting when
Mm.
I'm not getting the satisfaction I'm looking for. I don't know how much of what I'm looking for is realistic, and I
Mm.
don't know how much is like, yeah, you just have to keep on doing this. Like, this is just part of it, right? Like, and like I fell off of social media for pretty much all of last year, right? Like I would like hop in like once or twice and move on. I was still good with my newsletter for the most part, but like I can see like my audience went cold, right?
Mm.
And so it was almost like when I stepped back in and was doing the release for Hazel and Elijah, it was like, hey guys, remember me? Let me
Yeah.
remind you, I still exist, right? And it was like, there was no building necessarily as much as like just continuing to like, to make even followers that had been really into me, to like bring them back to being into me, right?
Right.
I have somewhere around like 650 followers on Instagram, right? At least I think that's the number. Anyway, I'll like do a post, and then like a well-performing post in like 7 days will have somewhere around 200 views, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's nowhere near my follower list, right? And that's a well-performing post. That's not the average post.
Well,
I'm doing what I'm doing that I think is fun, that I think
mm.
is like worth my time, right? And doing my best not to worry about what the fuck the algorithm does, right? Because
Yeah.
like if I'm chasing the algorithm, for one thing, I'm going to be spending my full-time job figuring out what the algorithm's doing this week, and then it's going to change next week. And so I get to do that all over again. And then like that's no longer fun to me. So
Mm.
my solution is to like keep doing what's fun to me, because then I'm actually going to do it. If I don't like something, I'm not going to do it tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
I would love more interactions with the post. Cool, great. There's a reason that we get dopamine from it, right? Even more so, I would love to figure out how to drive people to the next step. Like, you keep on liking my posts, you keep on enjoying my like funny things I'm doing online. What's like, I need to push them to the next step. I have to finish the course, and honestly, like that marketing course I got, it does actually
Mm.
specifically spell out what to do. So I have to finish reading it and like actually doing it.
All the answers are right there.
All the answers are right there. So but the thing is like I don't feel like I can keep up on writing, doing the post, and studying marketing at the rate that like other things in my life are pressuring like for my attention.
Yeah.
I'll probably have to like slow down the amount of posting I'm doing to, not 5 days a week, but only 3 days a week while I finish doing the marketing thing.
I think the strategy you have of like focusing on like what you enjoy from this, I think that's a good thing to build a habit on. And
Mm-hmm.
then as you have time for it to kind of examine, especially because like I think it also does take time to build up a number of like samples that get, or a sample size, and be able to see that bird's eye view of like what's getting more a better, more positive reception, like what actually gets attention, you know. And I think it's not something that you need to constantly have your eye on. It's something that like you can step back every now and then, like maybe once a month, and be like, this kind of post really resonates with people, so I can do more of these.
You know what's been surprising is like my reels where I am like just talking at the camera.
Yeah. Girl, you look so pretty every time you do those, and every time thanks. I'm like, I'm so envious every time. I'm like, God, I wish I felt like clean enough, like literally just not like greasy.
Well, I mean, I have a filter on, so like,
you look so natural with it.
Thank you, but like it's hard because like I can only do that when I have like something to talk about, right? It's like launching someone into the middle of the conversation that's happening in my brain. And not everything that's happening in my brain is for reader consumption, right? Like I wouldn't say this on that, like on Instagram, right? Because like that's like, guys, will you buy my books? I don't know how to do this, right? So it would be more so like something that I did that I was like, oh my gosh, guys, get a load of this lady. She's such a goof, right? Like that I feel comfortable like kind of being self-deprecating in that way. Or like talking about, like doing a reel that like specifically talks about like some of the things I love about my books. You know, like those are kind of the things that I would do reels about. And they honestly take the least amount of time because I just talk. And like I'll have like one or two like takes where I'm like putting together the thought, and then I just one thought like say everything in a minute and then like post it.
Yeah. That's kind of what I'm doing on Threads, is that like whenever I'm writing and I find something that like this is making me smile or this is making me laugh or kick my feet or whatever.
Yes.
I try to like distill it into a like one sentence and be like, hey guys, this is what I love about my current whip. Bye.
Yeah.
And I'm finding like that does get some amount of like, you know, positivity back. And I think that's it's worth it to kind of take those moments and reflect them into something that, you know, just sharing them with people.
I don't know, I feel like I just like had that epiphany like right here, and so like having a moment, because like I was planning on doing one when I announced my contest giveaway, right? Because I'm doing it around like, hey, guess who's no longer grounded from only one bed, like sort of thing, because I had to ground myself. I only wanted to write that trope.
Oh my God.
Yeah. When I had 2 books published and I was like, they both have only one bed, I'm like, maybe I try something different. So yeah, I was planning on doing one of those posts when I did the ungrounding announcement and kind of like talk about all the things that I love about this trope and why I love to rewrite it over and over and over. Because like it's a shared experience for people who love that trope too, right? Like it's why, like the reasons I love it and love writing it are the same reasons someone else loves reading it. Yeah,
I feel like that's a pretty good note to end on. What about you?
I agree. Yeah. Do you want to give a piece of writing advice?
Sometimes when you learn to identify what is a critical and necessary critique of your work, a critique has to have a reason. Like, this is what's going to make it better. It can't just be, I don't like this. This is, I don't feel great about this. It has to have a substantiated reason for it to be a critique. Like, just laying that down as a definition. Because otherwise, it's a self-destructive urge around your writing. And you need to, like, take 5. Like, take 5 minutes,
when you,
take 10
I'm sorry, you're talking about a
self-critique
and not like a critique of other people's work?
Self-critique. I mean, you could practice this with other people's work if you want, but like I'm a big believer in repeating a thought to yourself and then saying, do I need to voice that? Do I need to post it? Do that a lot when I'm high. I like type something out and then I go, this goes in the notes folder actually. I'll come back to it. And then it's always like, ooh, yeah, that was like too aggressive for
That's so funny.
The other day, like I was doing my editing on my project and I was like, oh my God, I just want to like rip this element of the book out. I just kind of posted that frustration online and then I walked away. And then, you know, who else but Heather the editor. extraordinaire was like, no, don't do that. And
okay,
like,
you had
it's
that
so
same
good to
experience with me for Orc in the Office when you're like, I think I'm gonna get rid of the scene. I'm like, absolutely do not leave that scene, don't touch it. Kate, no.
Yeah, and so
yeah.
Sometimes it is not a genuine critique coming from an educated place. Sometimes it's just a bad vibe that's sitting in you, and you gotta exercise it out.
You had a legitimate reason for why you wanted to get rid of that scene. Well, you had a reason that you thought was legitimate.
I felt like it didn't add much to the story.
And the amount you continue to be wrong about that.
Yeah, you can be wrong and extremely fallible.
Yes.
Your own mood swings is such true. It's become a real game changer in my writing to just kind of step back, and I think I really needed to like feel how badly I could fuck up one of my own manuscripts just by giving in to those urges. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
How about you, Marty? What's your writing advice?
Okay, so I listened to the episode that posted yesterday with Lauren Connolly about time management. And so I went through and did a Gantt chart for myself and what I want to get done between now and December. I really appreciate having it spelled out in front of me. And also I see more like, okay, this is the way I can create like a deadline for myself, and this is the way I can create a deadline for myself while still like not over expecting things from my brain, right?
Yeah.
So like I want this novella to be out to beta readers starting the week of August 12th, right? And so like if I were to get a hold of some beta readers and like, hey, would you be available at this time, and kind of like get 3 or 4 people set up already and kind of like mark me in their calendars for it. And then also making sure that that Heather, the editor, is available in October like I would like her to be, and sending those emails out today. And so it's really nice that like I went through and did this, because now I have a better understanding of like how much more focus I have to put to actual writing in order to make these goals happen for this year. But then also scheduling them with people who also have schedules. That's my piece of writing advice, is actually go through and plan out your year now that you are knowledgeable about your output and the expectation of your time, and go that route. And that's what I think you should do.
It's really great to be able to look back on your writing as timelines and like be able to like quantify the data of like, this is how long it takes me to write something this size, or to like get through the whole process, or something like that.
Well, and then also I'm adding like each week what my word count is, so I can see like, okay, I am producing the amount of words I expected myself to do each week, because I don't have a daily word count goal. I have like a weekly word count goal, because my weeks are very fluctuant, right? This week, honestly, I'll have the ability to probably surpass that word count goal because of all the open houses I have scheduled. Right?
God, 15 open houses. Sounds like a fucking nightmare. I'm so dreading that for you.
They're absolutely wonderful.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. If they're a good thing, I'm glad for you.
I really love them. I just sit there in a nice, clean house that's nicely air conditioned. And I focus on whatever I want for, however long the open house is. And I just have to close up my book or stop typing when somebody walks in. I just answer questions and get to know people, and it's really fun, and it's quiet. It's great. I love it. I do like open houses. But yeah, so that's my piece of writing advice, is actually go through and either chart what you should expect from yourself and spend that time so you can make an actual plan, or actually make the plan if you've already charted what you can expect from yourself.
I had something I knew I wanted to like touch on during this episode, and it was just that like people with ADHD will sometimes mask to overcompensate, like for the ADHD, like will end up overworking and like burning themselves out. Yeah. I just wanted to stick that in haphazardly.
I think that's a really good point.
We can get that next time. I can always talk about that another time.
Yeah. I do think that's a good point though. But Kate, where can they find you?
They can find me under a rock.
Okay, can I put a little caveat onto my piece of writing advice?
Sure.
Okay, so my additional little like asterisk is whatever you plan for yourself, cut that
Give
down.
yourself a lot of
Yeah.
buffer time between
So,
things, like
yeah,
really overestimate how much
exactly.
relaxation can go into something, or
Well,
how much, not relaxation, how much
productivity.
buffer you need around
Yeah.
something, and then like quadruple it.
So I like made my plan based on how many words I expect from myself. And then I
Mm,
added a week of actual planning, right? So if it took 4 weeks, I added another week and made it 5. And then I just put a break week at the end of it, like at the
mm.
end of that task, at the end of finishing that book. So essentially, I'm giving myself 2 extra weeks to actually get this done. And so if I'm done early, great, I'll move forward the rest of the task, no big deal. But like throughout the course of, and I also marked off vacation, but throughout the course of the week or out the course of the year, there's going to be times where I'm going to get sick. There's going to be times where I have sick kids. There's going to be times where like work has a huge influx. And so just having spare time built into the schedule, which is something that Lauren talked a lot about,
Mm.
has really created a lot less stress around this task.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's so important to like be able, like it helps you account for the weird little things that life throws at you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But okay, I'm sorry, Kate, they can
Right.
find you
No, you
under a rock. Where else can they find you?
my website is kate-pryor.com. It's got all my socials, it's got my newsletter, it's got all my books. I think that's everything you would need.
I am Marty the author at TikTok and Instagram, and I'm starting to be present on Facebook too, because why not just post the same thing everywhere? Fuck it.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's like the best social media strategy is
Yeah.
same post everywhere.
Everywhere. And then you can find me at martyv.com, and you can sign up for my newsletter and check out my automation, man. Give it a little eye and see what you think and see if it works for you to do something similar.
Yeah.
All right, listener, you have a great day. You take care.
Bye.
Bye.